So what was actually Cold War? So Cold War was nothing but the ideological war between USA and USSR. See, USA and USSR are just the countries to be named, but actually it was an ideological war. So if you come to USA, it is a capitalist country with democracy as a form of government. So if you come to USSR, USSR is a communist country with authoritarian regime. So these two are two poles. If you go and talk to any political analyst, they say these are the two ends of any government system. So one is communist, one is capitalist. So America is very much close to this pole, and USSR is very much close to this pole, which happens to be communist pole. So America wanted to have more and more countries in its list of communist and democratic countries, and USSR was on a run to make many of the countries in the world in their list of communist and authoritarian regime. And that is how it all started, the Cold War. So because of this, just after the Cold War, the Germany was divided into two parts. The first one was West and the second one was East Germany. So West Germany and East Germany was divided. Not only Germany, the capital city of Germany, that is Berlin, was also divided into two parts. So the first part or the first block was taken by USSR as a whole, and the second part was dominated or controlled by capitalist countries, namely USA, France, and the UK. So the Germany was divided and the capital city Berlin was also divided. You must have remembered the name Berlin Wall. Okay, so it was a wall which created between these two blocks. So after that, there was Warsaw countries, and East and West Germany was divided, and Warsaw countries were formed. We will see what is Warsaw countries in the coming slides. Fine. The most suffered countries of the Cold War was these three countries. In fact, the effect was also seen in many other countries. There was formation of NAM, which is called non-alignment movement. Okay, so the most suffered countries of this Cold War are Korean Peninsula, the Vietnam, and Cuba. Okay, so these, if we discuss, they are very deep topics, but as far as our discussion is concerned, we just name the things only. Fine. So it all ended with this disintegration of USSR. Fine. So we will see how the geological bifurcation or the divisions were made in Europe back in 1947 to 1991, which is called as Cold War. Fine. So if you see Europe, this is the world. So in that you can see this is USSR block and the blue one is USA block. And these countries which are not at all in either in red or blue are NAM countries, non-alignment movement. So this again happens to be a very, very, very wide topic to discuss, of which even our first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, was also a part of it, and he have that privilege of to be called as NAM was actually called the child of Nehru's ideologies. Fine, it's actually a huge privilege for India. So as far as our discussion is concerned, we are restricting only for USA allies and Soviet allies, or we can also say Soviet bloc and capitalist bloc, or communist and capitalist bloc. Fine. So if you see here, this was Russia, this is China, Vietnam, and if you come here, here was a main area of concern, because if you see, the communist bloc and capitalist bloc are actually colliding with each other. Okay, so this was the region, and it was popularly called as Iron Curtain. Okay, so this side of Iron Curtain we had capitalist countries, and that part of right part of the Iron Curtain we have communist countries. Okay, so time and again I am using capitalist, communist, capitalist, communist. You must be getting one doubt: what are communist countries, what are capitalist countries? So to make things simple, I am going to say capitalist countries are those countries in which market economy is given to the economy is given to the market. So the government is not controlling the dynamics of economy or dynamics of the market directly. In fact, there will be some limited control of the government, but majorly the market is controlled by private people, that is capitalism, or we can also say in Kannada Bandawala Shahi. Fine. So what happens in communism? So communism is an extreme form of socialism. Okay. So communism, what happens in communism is the whole country, the resources of the country, the opportunities of the country belongs to community. They doesn't belong to one single government, but they belong to community. And each and every person of the community has equal share on the resources, on the opportunities, on the land of the country. Okay. So due to communism, we have socialism, or communism and socialism are one block, and capitalism and democracy are another block. You can make the thing simple. And USA happens to be capitalist and democratic country. USSR happens to be communist and socialist country. Fine. So they were on a run to add more and more countries into their list. Okay. So this was actually, the bifurcation made in 1945. Okay. Then we are going to see the map of Europe, how it actually looked. So this is the Europe map, in which you can see there is Iron Curtain. Okay. So this is the Iron Curtain. This is a part of Germany. This is called West Germany, and this is East Germany. Okay. Not only that, Berlin, you can see here, even Berlin was divided into two parts, the West Berlin and East Berlin, and German wall or Berlin Wall divided actually between these two parts. Okay. So this side of Iron Curtain we have Spain, France, Belgium, right? Italy. All these countries are capitalist countries who supported USA extensively. Okay. So right side of the Iron Curtain we have Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, and USSR. They all supported USSR. In fact, they were communist countries or socialist countries, you can say. So this is how the Europe was divided back in 1945, 47 to 1991 mainly. Fine. So you can see here, yeah, this is East Germany, this side it is West Germany. Not only Germany, again Berlin was divided into two parts, as I said. So here there is Soviet sector, here there is West sector, or capitalist sector. See, here you have French, here you have British, here you have America. So these three countries are capitalist countries. And if you see this side, there is only one block, that is Soviet bloc, which happens to be socialist and communist. Okay. So this was the Berlin Wall we talk about. So Berlin Wall was actually mainly built in order to restrict the movement of people from West Germany to the movement of people from East Germany to West Germany. You see, capitalist countries are actually attractive countries because they have market economy left in the hands of private people. So they seem more fascinating, they seem more consumerist, they keep consuming more and more goods and services. So that the lifestyle of the capitalist countries seems more attractive. That is how the socialist people or the people of the socialist bloc was actually attracted. So they heavily started migrating to the West Germany. That is when Soviets started feeling the pain of that. So they decided to build a wall in which people are not allowed to cross the wall. That is what it was called as Berlin Wall. In fact, there were many families which were separated from this wall, and it was broken in 1989. As time comes, we are going to discuss the same. But Berlin Wall was built to restrict the movement of people from the Soviet bloc to the capitalist bloc or the USA bloc. Fine. So if these things are happening in the world, America started thinking they have to form a military alliance, so that if we have military alliance, there is a more chance that USSR will get arrested from its development. So USSR will stop its expansion in Europe. That was the thing, that was the thought USA got. And immediately back in 1949, USA thought of forming something called NATO, which happens to be North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So what is this NATO actually is? NATO is a military alliance or security alliance of almost 30 countries now today. Fine. So you see, it was formed in 1949 as a military alliance to arrest, to arrest the Soviet expansion in East Europe. So as I showed the slide before, the USSR or the Soviet bloc was actually expanding in Europe. So to arrest that, to stop the development of USSR in the European bloc, they formed NATO. It is heavily funded by USA. I mean, almost 3.52% of the NATO funding comes from only one country, that is USA. Okay, mostly serve the USA interest. See, if you are controlling anything, or if you have more and more funding on something, so you have control on that indirectly or directly. So to make the thing simple, your parents keep sending you money. So because of that, they have a different kind of power on you. So whatever you make will be controlled by them. That is what NATO is also doing. NATO mostly serve the interest of USA. Okay, so it's not involved in any war directly till the date. Till the date, if you see, NATO have not involved itself into any of the wars. Okay, but they have indirectly made anything they could do. Okay, so you can see there are almost, not almost, it's exactly 30 member countries and aspire to expand it. Even today, the expansion of NATO is the main reason why the war broke out in Europe. Right? So this is a brief thing about NATO. You can see these are the blue countries, which happens to be NATO members. Okay, so this is the sea. Sorry, this is the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. So northern part of the Atlantic Ocean is having association of 30 countries, which is called as NATO. Okay, so this is a military alliance. Okay, and they have a security rule that the Article 5 of the NATO says that war on one country is like declaration of war on all 30 countries. So all these 30 countries will come together and attack the hostile country. So this is the NATO's most important article, that is Article 5 of the NATO. Okay. So then going next, we have Warsaw Pact. See, America is actually making an alliance of military. Okay. So how will USSR bloc keep quiet, right? So even they formed something called Warsaw Pact back in 1955. Okay. So the 49 is a formation of NATO, and 1955 is the formation of Warsaw Pact. So Warsaw Pact is nothing but the formation of, it is association of some of the countries of USSR bloc or Soviet bloc. These are the countries which were part of it. We have USSR, East Germany, which was controlled by USSR. Then we have Poland, Czech Republic, today's Czech Republic, then Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Hungary. So if you see the countries of Warsaw Pact and if you see the countries of NATO, you can clearly say that NATO have more and more developed countries. They have more modernized military system. And if you see the Warsaw Pact, there is only one country, that is USSR, which is highly militarized and highly advanced, most modernized military system. Okay, so these all countries are, if you talk about military sense, they are low-hand countries. Okay, so it was formed in 1955 by USSR and its satellite states to counter NATO. So they formed NATO, we formed Warsaw Pact. That was the argument of USSR. Fine. So Iron Curtain differentiated NATO and Warsaw countries. We saw in the before slides that there was something called Iron Curtain between Europe countries itself, which differentiated between capitalist and communist countries, democratic and socialist countries. Fine. So the members, it had 8 members back in those times. Okay. So all this dynamics was happening. Okay. The Iron Curtain was one single thing in which both the troops of the country were standing in front of each other. One bullet from this side would declare Third World War, a full-fledged Third World War, and one bullet from this side would do the same. Okay, so what they did is, we are not going to fight in Europe this time, so we are going to fight in different locations. Okay, that was the unsaid, undeclared war of both the blocks, USSR and USA. So what they did is, they fought Korean War, which was between US bloc and USSR bloc. They fought war in Vietnam, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. Again, that was a part of this Cold War only. And again, they fought in Cuba, which is well known, very famously known as Cuban Missile Crisis, and they also had a fight in Afghanistan, okay, back in 1978 to 1988. In fact, the Afghan war was one thing which put full stop for these people's, not full stop, at least a comma, for these people's fight, that is USSR and USA fight. Okay, so USSR was disintegrated back in 1991. There are multiple reasons. It was not just 1 year that made this, not just 3 years also, that is 1989 to 91. Okay, that was not just 3 years also. It was the compiled effects of all the events that happened right from 1945 to 1991, out of which Mikhail Gorbachev played a very crucial role in disintegration of USSR. In fact, many people say he was the person who disintegrated USSR, but he saved whole world by avoiding Third World War. Fine. So USSR disintegrated into 14 plus 1 countries. So 14 plus 1 countries, you don't have to remember all the countries. But if you see, you can remember easily because we have 3 Baltic countries, 3 Caucasian countries, then 5 Central Asian countries. So this is 5 plus 3 plus 3, how much? It's 11. Okay. Then again we have 3 more countries, okay, in Europe. Okay. So the Baltic countries you must be remembering: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Caucasian countries: Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. 5 Central Asian countries, which is famously also you can remember it like KKTTU, which happens to be Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Okay, and we have 3 European countries. I mean the USSR part which got into Europe, that is Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova. Ukraine is a today's concern. Okay. So till then, till 1991, there was nothing called Ukraine as a separate country. 1991, after we had something called Ukraine as a full-fledged country or a free country, independent country, a sovereign country, right? So then we have Russia took the responsibility of continuing the legacy of USSR. See, USSR was a huge country. When it got disintegrated, someone has to take responsibility of the legacy which USSR had back in those times. So Russia directly came and said, we are the right inheritants of USSR legacy. And they did everything they could do for that. So they took all the nukes from USSR. They took all the nukes from Ukraine also, telling that we are the legitimate USSR, or the erstwhile USSR is now Russia. They all took hostility thing also from USA. Then they, indirectly they said, see, for USA they said, see, now before you used to hate USSR, now you start hate us. We are Russia, we are the new USSR. That was the indirect speech of the Russia. Fine. So then, there are some reasons also. As I said, the reasons actually passed. They come right from 1945 itself. But still, we have some of the reasons that happened back from 1970s and 80s that led to the disintegration in early 90s. Okay. So the failed efforts in Afghanistan. So Russia actually waged a war in Afghanistan. They brutally failed it. Okay, Al-Qaeda was the organization, and Osama bin Laden was the person who worked as per USA said. Then we have then they are unable to manage such a huge area. USSR was one of the biggest countries of that time. It was the only biggest country then. And now also, if you see, Russia happens to be #1 biggest country in the world. Okay. So stagflation in USSR. So stagflation is an economic term wherein there is no growth and there is increment of unemployment. No economic growth and increased unemployment. Or we can also say this comes from stagnation plus inflation. So stagnation is no growth, it just means, and inflation is increase in the prices of the commodities in general in the market. Okay, so these are very basic terms in economy. So stagflation in USSR, pro-democratic insurgency in different parts. So you see, when you have a big area, you are unable to control each and every part of it, and you don't know which idea is coming to which part. So the satellite countries like Poland, Yugoslavia was a different this thing. So Albania, all these countries started getting democratic and capitalist ideas into their country. So the people started getting attracted to the capitalist, or the, see, even today we have that tendency. People, if you ask them if they are going to any foreign country, which they prefer USA, they prefer France, they prefer Spain, right? Did you ever see any of your friend preferring Russia over USSR? USA, right? So they always prefer to go for capitalist country. If you see China also, I have never seen any of my friends going to China for studies, but I have seen many of my friends going to USA or European countries for studies, because the lifestyle that capitalism gives, the lifestyle that democracy gives, is more and more susceptible to people. They want it more and more. Okay. So that is how it happened. So collective result of Gorbachev's effort to reform Soviet political and economic system. So he actually brought some political and economic reforms, and they started feeling like anything. So it was his time actually back in 1989 when Ukraine was the first country that declared that we are going to disintegrate from erstwhile USSR. Okay. So Ukraine was the first country back in 1989. They flagged a different flag for their own country, and they declared independence from the USSR. So after that, in next 3 years, everything happened just like that, and they got freedom. Okay. So formally declared union's collapse as fait accompli, which means point of no return. So Gorbachev, in their parliament, he just said that we have reached the point wherein we can't come back. So they disintegrated USSR into 14 plus 1 countries. I also said the country's name. You can just remember like 3 Baltic countries, 3 Caucasian countries, 5 Central Asian countries, and 3 European countries. So this is simple way you can remember. Anyway, these things are not directly asked in exam, but it is most important for you people to know which were the part of USSR country.